Well, hi tubers, hi, I'm back with 60 books in isolation, and can I just say that I did not want to do this review. I really did not do this review, because this is a story about an interesting man who honestly survived hell by just using his wits. However, this book does not do his life any justice. It really doesn't. So I'm not going to talk about, well, wait, I'm going to talk about Lally the man. I'm going to talk about how this book does not do his life any justice. This is a book which has been denounced by Auschwitz itself due to the factual errors within it, which is a shame because this book is a story of a love story that happened in Auschwitz. This story came about a man who met his soulmate whilst in the most deplorable, hellish conditions you could ever imagine. Very few films really sum up how bad it was. A really good clip, and I found it online, I might try to put it down there, is Band of Brothers. When they get to Auschwitz, they see for themselves what it's like. Auschwitz was hell. I've read books about Auschwitz. I've been to Auschwitz. Now, to sum up what it's like getting into Auschwitz, well, my first camp I visited when I was in Germany, was called Sachsenhausen. It's, as camps go, it's not on the most largest side. It's, well, large enough in a way. And I was walking around the barracks. I went outside for a cigarette. I'm a very dirty smoker, fine. So standing at where the train station is, where they literally the remains of the train station, where the trains came in, and everyone was walked straight off and through the gates. Smart, aber mein fear, work sets you free. Okay. And turned around behind me, there was a tree, obviously, and on this tree was a group of crows. And a group of crows is called a murder. There's several of them. And I looked at it thinking, you're not coming any further, are you? The land of the camps is so entrenched with sorrow and grief that birds don't land there. Birds do not land. If you ever visit a concentration camp, and I think everyone should just kind of understand what happened. In Sachsenhausen, a lot of experimentations were done there, and so as worked in hospitals, on the tiles, the blood, you can still smell blood entrenched in these tiles. The grief is still absorbed in these tiles. It's a horrible place, but it really kind of humbles you. And it mentally exhausts you because you look at it thinking, not even 70 years ago. That's how recent it was in our human history. Birds don't land in camps. They don't. The ground is so for grief, it won't. Since that time, I've been to several, and I went to Auschwitz several years ago itself, when I went to Krakow. And I also visited the set of Schindler's List. It's called a Libyan Quarry. It's just outside Krakow itself. And the set for Schindler's List is still there in rusted Technicolor. And it's interesting if you watch Schindler's List. I'm sure everyone's seen Schindler's List, but a lot of the times they do the panel show reels to kind of show what's going on at this point in history. It just says Auschwitz. That's all it says. It doesn't need any explanation. Auschwitz. Because that's what Auschwitz is. Just that one word can conjure up the images of so much death and deprivation and horror. There's a fantastic, fabulous on Netflix documentary about Auschwitz. There's also a book as well, which I do also recommend you watch. It's the story of the people who Auschwitz itself, the people who survived Auschwitz, the way that they were changed. You can't spend that many years with the devil's arithmetic tattooed on your arm and walk out of there the person you were before that person's gone. You know the horrors of war and deprivation. You've lived it. So, let's just talk about the Tattooist of Auschwitz, okay? So, in 1942, Lally Sokolov arrived in Auschwitz-Birkenau. He was given the job of tattooing the prisoners marked for survival, scratching numbers into his fellow victims' arms in indelible ink to create what become the most potent symbols of the Holocaust. Waiting in line to be tattooed, terrified and shaken, was a young girl. For Lally, a dandy, a jack-in-the-lad, a bit of a chancer, as love at first sight. He was determined not only to survive himself, but to ensure this woman Gita did too. So begins one of the most life-affirming, courageous, unforgettable and human stories of the Holocaust, the love story of the Tattooist of Auschwitz. Okay. Right, so you can imagine, I can't even imagine what might be, like being Lally himself. Now, well, actually his real name was Ludwig, okay, I mentioned that first. He volunteered to go to Auschwitz to save his family, proving that he was definitely a seriously brave man to do that. Young, strapping, he thought, well, I'm going to go to my parents' place. Courageous man there. And then once he gets there, he's dehumanized. His clothes are taken off him. He's tattooed himself. And then, by chance, he gets a job with the tattooer, the tattooist. And he has to sit there, as I said before, putting the devil's arithmetic on his countrymen's arms, his people he knows. And the worst thing is this is probably the worst thing is, people were taken straight off the trains and lined up, okay? Assessed, point one direction you live, other direction you're taken to the gas chamber. By tattooing them, he actually gave them time. It meant they would live. It does not, no one knew for how long, but it meant they would live longer. That's the worst thing, in a way. The devil's arithmetic kept them going for that little bit longer, but no one knew how long. No one knew how long. Okay? So, but the thing is, this book, one thing, there's various aspects of Lally's character which I always felt needed exploring a little bit more. Now, this bit here, this bit here, okay? This bit here. Well, Lally likes meeting all kinds of people, particularly likes meeting women. He thinks them all beautiful regardless of their age, their appearance, how they are dressed. The highlights of his daily routine is walking through the women's department where he works. That's when he flirts for the young and not so young women who walk behind the counter. Okay. Yeah, so Lally's a chancer. Lally, and, you know, the typical, you know, depicted of him, he was a very, very handsome man in his youth. Very, very handsome. You can imagine, okay? Sly little word, you know, little whisper. Oh yeah, I bet it was definitely a ladies' man. So it's, you know, and it's good that in a way that you can kind of see people exploring their lives before they're at the camp. It gives them a humanity that a lot of times is not in books like this. But the problem with this book is where it describes Auschwitz itself. Now, I've been to Auschwitz. I've seen it for myself. I've seen the barbed wire. I've been in a gas chamber. I've stood in a gas chamber, seen the scratch marks on the wall. The Auschwitz Memorial itself do an incredible job. It was part of a tour group. And sadly, there were always several tours running at the same time, but we managed to get a really good time of day. I've seen the walls where they executed people. And that, at times, what you know of Auschwitz does not appear in this book. This book does not feel like it's in Auschwitz at all. At various points, it feels like the book is reminding itself it's in a concentration camp. This bit here, this is page 47. This is when Lally's managed to get some. Lally's trying to obviously stay alive, okay, and meeting individuals who come drop in and out of this book quite a lot. But this bit here, okay. See you, Lally says as he serves the sausages in his bag, his medical sausages. Stray snowflakes drift around him as he walks back to his block. The flakes catches the last rays of the sun and bounce in strobes of light that remind him of a kaleidoscope he played with as a boy. What's wrong with this picture? Lally is overcome with emotion as he hurries back to his block. On his face, the melted snow is indistinguishable from the tears. The winter of 1942 has arrived. Okay? Now, stray snowflakes or ash. You understand? Which I actually like that section. Okay, but the thing is, then Lally, he decides to start a smuggling operation, which has been actually confirmed as true. And kudos to the guy. But this bit here, okay, this bit here. Right. Right. This is literally the next page. He heads towards one of the candy buildings. He once asked the man in Block 7 if he knew why they called these autumns by that names. The girls who want their dream of a place far away where there's plenty of evidence, so plenty of everything, and life can be what they want it to be. They decided Canada is such a place. Lally has spoken to a couple of girls working in this Canada. It's just everything, everyone exits many times. I know Gita doesn't work here. There are other buildings he cannot easily access. She was working one of these. He spies two girls he's spoken to before walking together. He reaches into his bag, withdraws two parcels, and approaches them smiling. He turns and walks alongside them. I'm going to give you parcel sausages. Do not open until you're alone. The girls do the same, not breaking step. Their eyes darting around for SS who might be watching them. Once the sausage is in their hands, they wrap their arms around their chest and much to keep themselves warm as to protect their gift. Girls, I've heard you sometimes find jewels and money, is that correct? Drummond exchanged a glance. I don't want to put you at risk, but do you think there's any way you could smuggle a little out of it for me? One of them says nervously, it shouldn't be too hard, and miners don't pay much attention to us, they think we are harmless. Great. Just keep what you can about causing suspicion, and with it I will buy you food and others food like this sausage. Do you think you get some chocolate? One of them says their eyes bright. Okay, so Laddie starts to smuggle it. He uses basically his charm, okay? He uses his charm and his wits, and he starts his smuggling ring. But at the same time, he has put these women at risk. If they are caught smuggling these diamonds, these jewels, which prisoners put on their possession day, they sewed into their clothes. And then at Canada, they were ripped through trying to find the jewels that everyone knew that they were smuggling, okay? He's put their lives at risk. They've agreed to do it, fine, but he's put their lives at risk. He put their lives in danger. And this bit here kind of irked my stomach a little bit, okay? This is when Gita and Lally are together, okay? And this is page 95. Now, this bit here, and it involves chocolate, okay? Gita takes a small amount of chocolate. After Gita has smeared the last bit of chocolate on Lally's lips, she gently kisses him, licking the chocolate away. When Gita finally opens her eyes, she wipes the tears that run down Lally's face. What else have you got in that bag of yours? She asks playfully. Lally sniffs and laughs. A diamond ring, or would you prefer an emerald? Oh, I have the diamond, thank you, she says, playing along. Lally rummages around in his bag and produces an exquisite silver ring with a single diamond set in it. Handing it to her, she says, it's yours. Gita can't take her eyes off the ring with the sun bouncing off the stone. Where did you get this? Girls working in one of the Canada buildings find food and money for me. That's why I find jewels and money for me. That's what I used to buy food and medicine I've been giving you and the others. Here, take it. Gita puts her hand out as though to try on the ring, but then pulls back. No, you keep it. Put it to good use. Okay, Lally goes to put it back in his bag. Stop, let me look at it one more time. Okay. Now, the fact is that he's given this ring to his girlfriend in Auschwitz, but there is no moment of where did that ring come from. That ring once belonged to someone who most probably is gone, and he's just given it to his girlfriend as a gift, if you will. There's that. It felt like reading this book that the Auschwitz itself is a backseat to the love story. And I never thought I'd ever say this, but at times it felt like Auschwitz was a crappy stay at a holiday camp than what it actually is. I've seen for myself what it was like. There were documentaries about what it was like. Just, against the love story, it's the reminder. Here we go. This is chapter 17. The monsters fell out particularly harsh. Prisoners die in all matter of manner. Many taken by disease, malnutrition, and exposure to the cold. A few make it to electrified fence, killing themselves. Others are shot by tower guard before they can. The gas chambers and crematoria are working overtime. And Lally and Leon's tattooing stations teem with people as tens of thousands are transported to Auschwitz and Birkenau. Lally and Gita see each other on Sundays when possible. If you understand. If you understand. Now, Lally obviously did... Yeah, I actually think it was quite brave, the real Lally. But except for this book doesn't do his justice. This book presents a man who got into Auschwitz by, got into Auschwitz by the gift of the gab, and his charm, was able to charm women, was able to get away with it, enjoyed a level of freedom. But still, can you still imagine though what his the real Lally's life must have been like? Now, being a tattooer, he obviously enjoyed better privileges than most prisoners. He was better fed. He had better barracks. This poor man, the real Lally, had to go to sleep every single night knowing he was alive by what he had to do to his fellow countrymen. Can you imagine what must have gone through his head every single day? I'm alive because I do this to them. That's heartbreaking. Now, I believe it's on his Wikipedia page that he didn't tell his story until quite late in his life after Gita passed away, because he felt like history would view him as a collaborator. Well, I certainly don't. I don't view him as a collaborator. I view him as a man who had to do what he had to do to survive. Okay? But this book does not present him or his actions in a particularly fantastic light. They really, really don't. Right. And obviously, with individuals in the camp, okay, the names that we know, like Mengele. Now, Mengele gets a mention in this, okay? Now, Mengele is presented as this bit here. This is Mengele, Joseph Mengele, who was look him up. He was a level of sickness which I didn't think was humanly possible what he did to people. Right. Mengele scanned the silent roads, making his way so toward the Tattooist station. Leon's hands trembled at his approach. They tried to give him a reassuring look, but the bastard who has mutilated him is only a few feet away. Mengele stops and watches them work. Occasionally he appears close to a tattoo, increasing Lally and Leon, his partner's, agitation. His deathly smirk never leaves his face. He attempts eye contact at Lally, who never raises his eyes above the level of the arm he was working on. Tattooia, Mengele says, leaning over the table. Maybe today I will take you. He tilts his head curiously, seeming to enjoy Lally's discomfort, and having had his funny ambles away. Right. Okay, well, there's no... from documentaries that I've read, there's no actual evidence that Lally got hold of male prisoners. He kind of did other things I'm not going to discuss here. But, as I said before, this book has been denounced by Auschwitz. I'm going to get to that afterwards. Okay? Right. So, the war is over. Okay, gets on. Lally leaves, and the sad thing is about the Allies is they've won a war. They've won a war, and they can do what they like now, in a way. Individuals become cannon fodder. Women become the spoils of war. There is enough articles and evidence about the actions of the Allied nations after the war ended, if you will. Well, the war was still going on in several places, but after the surrender. And Lally gets involved in a group of Russians, okay, and Wakosi Fika Gita, and this bit here, and they ask him for entertainment, okay, this bit here. It's what the Russians say to him. You'll go to the village every morning to find lovely young ladies interested in spending some time here with us in the evening, understand? I'm to be your pimp. You understand perfectly. How am I to persuade them? Tell them you are good-looking fellows who will treat them well. We'll give you things to entice them. What sort of things? Come with me. The female walked downstairs to another sumptuous room when an officer opens a large vault set into a wall. The miner enters the vault and brings out 2 metal tins where he places on the desk. In one there is currency, in the other jewellery. They see many other similar tins shelved in the vault. Right. So, Lally finds these women in this village, Okay. And here we go. Basically, they go to these officers for a good time. Okay. Right, this is... Right. Back in his room, he begins to undress the bed. Feeling around in the cover of his trousers, he finds a small diamond he has placed there. Takes a single sock out of the drawer and stuffs the diamond in there before retiring for the night. He's woken a few hours later by laughter and chatter coming from his balcony doors. Steps outside and watches as the girls clamber aboard the truck for the trip home. Most seem intoxicated, but none look distressed. He goes to bed. He goes, this is for 2 weeks, so several weeks. Goes there twice a week. Okay. Even though these women offer themselves, even turns them down because of Gita. Well, that really should be explored in more detail and depth. I mean, that's an extraordinary story, isn't it? This man survived Auschwitz and then wound up becoming, and hey, he uses the word in the book, not me, a pimp for the Russians. All the stories I've read about Auschwitz, I've never read that one. That's extraordinary, and that really could go into more depth and detail. That could try to get other survivors' stories involved in this. Obviously, Germany post-war, there's a lot of, sadly, this type of thing that went on. That could really, really be explored in more detail. That's extraordinary. But it's not. That's the thing, it's not. Eventually, Lally gets out of there, and, well, manages to find his way home, back to Slovakia, and sadly his parents are gone, but his sister's still alive. And then he finds Gita, and this is how the story ends, okay? Lally sweeps Gita up into his arms and kisses her. One of Gita's friends comes over and leads the horse away. Then with Gita's arms around Lally's waist and head rested on his shoulders, to walk away, merging into the crowded street, one young couple among many in a war-ravaged city. Okay. So, and it says post-epilogue that he changed his name to Sokolov, the Russian surname of his married sister, same already accepted an Eisenberg in Soviet-controlled Slovakia. Okay. And later on he immigrated to Australia. And he had a son, married Gita obviously, led a good life. And towards the end, but after Gita passed away, he got in touch through kind of roundabout circumstances with Heather Morris. And this bit here. This is the author's note. Because the book isn't that long. The book is not that long. Okay? The book is not. Less than 300 pages, but just over 250. I'm sitting in the home of an elderly man. I don't know him well yet, but I've come to know his dogs Tootsie and Bam Bam. One the size of a pony and one other smaller than my cat. Thankfully I've won them over, and right now they are asleep. I look away for a moment and I have to tell him, you do know I'm not Jewish. Yes, he finally says, turning me with a smile, that's why I want you. I relax a little, I'm in the right place after all. So he says, as he's about to share a joke, tell me what you know about Jews. Her Morris actually didn't know anything about Jews or Jewish culture or the Holocaust. She didn't know virtually anything. I don't believe she even went to Auschwitz before she even wrote this book, which I thought she actually should have done. So, because the thing is that this book, as a text, is fine as a book, but this book, this book has been denounced by Auschwitz itself. I'm going to read, my laptop's to say it, what the Auschwitz Memorial has said about this book, okay? This is what they say. My laptop lets me load it for once. Here we go. Due to a number of factual errors, the Tattooist of Auschwitz cannot be recommended as a valuable position for those who wish to understand the history of the camp. And it links to this article in Memorial magazine. Now I'm going to bring up Memorial magazine. I'm going to read out part of the article. I'm actually going to post this article. Right, this bit here. Right. The place of particular sections of the camp were separated with barbed wire, and moving between them was strictly prohibited due to the presence of guards practically impossible and not reflected in the book. Likewise, the strictly observed separation of residential parts dedicated to male and female prisoners is not recognised. I'm not allowed to enter the premises of the women's camp without a justified reason related to the performance of duties. Only the craftsman commando were given access to in order to perform specific works. That's why it would be impossible for Gita and her friends could be amongst prisoners watching the soccer game, but the prisoners and the SS. Okay. You understand? I'm going to link to this article as well. Things like penicillin. Lally tries to find penicillin when Gita gets typhus, even though penicillin wasn't readily available in that time. I'm going to link to these articles, but it's been denounced as inauthentic by the camp, and that's greatly due to lack of research. In the book, Heather Morris thanks her researchers, but they're not named. And which is obviously a thing of a shame, because obviously if you want to expect extensive research for a book, Heather Morris never contacted Auschwitz itself to collaborate any research. Little things which are like Gita's name was wrong, trains were wrong, penicillin wasn't used, buildings that didn't exist at the time, a relationship with Chilka. Now she was a comfort woman of an SS officer. Now I don't know much about the story, but the thing is, in the book it's basically she's his comfort woman. There's been massive speculation of the authenticity of that. There's also a sequel called Chilka's, about Chilka's journey, which has been denounced by Chilka's actual family as fake, which I'm going to link to articles about that. Now, my personal feelings about this is, this would have been a fantastic book as an actual proper academic text. This is a unique position within the history of Auschwitz, the history of someone who went to the camp as a prisoner, and he was a prisoner, and yet by some twist of fate became the tattooist. This would have been written from a unique position. This would have been, don't write this as an act work of fiction, a fictionalized life. Write an academic text about Lally. Write an in-depth academic text about Lally, about Gita, all these individuals. A thoroughly decent research novel. I recently did a review of, it's called The Citizens of Auschwitz, which is known as the High Garden, about the resistance in Amsterdam. And that was a proper academic text. This book, written from the point of view, because obviously Lally was concerned a history with him as a collaborator. Obviously, I definitely don't think he was. But present his life as it was, explore his life, take his words, and obviously compare that to what happened then, okay? Create an authentic voice for him, because this book does not do Ludwig Eisenberg, his family, his history, or anything else any justice. There's other articles, one here, okay, it's from The Guardian, and it says exactly the same thing. Here we go. Report for the Auschwitz Memorial Research Centre claims inaccuracies in Heather Morris's hit novel blur the authenticity of the true history. Okay. Because it does say it's based on the powerful true story, but it's not. It's not. And the sad thing is that Gita and Lally and everyone else are real people. But the detailed broadside from its Auschwitz Memorial had disputed this, claiming that the book contains numerous errors and information inconsistent with the facts, about exaggerations, misinterpretations, and understatements. Yeah. I mean, this book, if Auschwitz denounced a book about Auschwitz, then you know there's a problem. I don't want to take anything away from Lally and Gita. These are real people who survived most extenuating circumstances I could not even want to imagine. I've seen the pictures, how anyone survived it, and those who did survive it, you were never the same. But this book does not do Lally, Gita, or Auschwitz itself any justice. And this story deserved better than this book. So obviously I don't recommend The Tattooist of Auschwitz. I recommend any other book about Auschwitz. I recommend a book called Auschwitz. I recommend you watch a documentary Auschwitz. But this book does not do Auschwitz justice. Lali and Gita deserve better. Oh, and I'm signing off here. Take care everyone. Bye now.